So the right panel, again, it depends on what view you are. For example, if I go to my application delegate here, I have only two tabs here and information about my current file that I have selected. You can see it changes. Then if I, for example, go to our main storyboard, this is the main place we're going to use our right panel. So as you can see, we have different tabs here. The most useful tabs are it's the fourth from the left, which is our attributes inspector, then the size inspector, and our connections inspector. These are the three, actually these four are the main things we're going to use. The first two are used very rarely. So depending on what you are selecting, your side panel here, attributes inspector, will show you different things. For example, right now I have selected the view here, the white background, and it gives me some information here about my view. And I have option background, which is currently custom, and it says white. So if I, for example, click and set it to blue, the color changes here. Then I can click on the height, I can use the scale and the size. But we're not going to do any of this right now. I'm just showing you what's going on here. Then we have our size inspector here. Again, this is useful when we are putting some UI elements here like buttons, text fields, etc., labels. So you can put the position where we want to put here. And also you can put the size by default, what you want to put. For example, the button here, if you click, is the library. So if you want to get any UI elements to use on our storyboard, for example, I want to put a button here, I just click, drag, and put it here. Let me change the background color back to white so we can see what's going on. So imagine I have a button here, and now my buttons has much more options here than my view had. So my button has a type, it's a system, it has a title, which is button. Now I can change it to click me. I hit enter, my button title changes. Then I have a text color. I can select anything I want here, like a color, and then if I move it to the right side, I will see the color. I can set it to red, for example. Then we have we can set the image, we can set the background. Instead of the text, we will have an image there. So again, to this we will get later on. Now for the measurements, you see my button is currently at X 127 and Y 227. So on iPhone screen, the 0, position is here on top. So if I put my X at 0 position, it will stick on the left, and Y on 0, it will be on top. So this is the 0, position. You may imagine that it would start 0 at the bottom here, but on Apple user interface, the 0 point is on top there. You can just click and drag, position it wherever you want, and you will see that measurements here change. Actually, this is the coordinates, and this is the size of our view that we have selected. So if I wanted to make bigger, I can either use this one of these squares, so I can just get drag, or I can just change the size here to be 150, for example, on 100. Hit enter, and this changes the size. And then the connections, here we have like different touch events. So when the button is clicked, some of these we can do like different functions. So when we touch and release, when we just touch without releasing, the function will be called. And these are all the options here. Mainly we are using the touch up inside. So when you click button and you release, only then the button fires, like something will happen. It's not like when you click without removing your finger, something will happen. And then once we connect all our views with our view controller here, again, this will be shown later, you will see all these different connections in our connections inspector here. So I'm going to close this panel now. So we are done with this for now. What I want to show you more is about our library here. The library, in library we can pull out another view controller if we want to. So let's say our application now is no longer a single view application. So we have two different views. So for example, this is like your login view and this is your game, for example. Or you can pull out as many views as you want. As you can see, we have different type of views here. We have table view controller, we have view controller, we have collection view controller. So about this we are going to get in more details later on. And you see the yellow ones, these are view controllers, which are the big screens, if you want to call them like this. Then the small ones, these are they are like sub views. They are called views. All of them are views. Even though this is a label, this is a button, this is segmented control, Apple called them views. So you can drag this and put in your view controller, but you cannot take another view controller and put inside your view controller. So these small ones are your sub views. So you can take out different things and put in your view controller here. So this is our library button here. Also we have three buttons here. The main by default selected this standard editor. Then if we select the middle one, this is going to be assistant editor. What assistant editor means is, as you can see right now, I have, for example, my view controller, the main user interface here, and on the right side Xcode automatically chooses the file that is associated with my view here. So if my view controller is controlled by this file here, when I select my view controller in Xcode, it will open next to it my file that is associated with this view. If I select the next view now that I just created, it doesn't have any view controller associated with this. That's why it opens the default UI view controller that is provided in iOS. You can see the file that it opened now. So this is the file. If you want to find out which view controller is associated with your current view, you can select your view controller here. You can see the blue outline that your view is selected. And then if you go to the third button here, which is the class inspector, the identity inspector, and you can see the custom class that controls this view controller. And the class name is view controller, which is this one here. If you want to create another view controller and change this, of course it's possible. We're going to do this later on together. And this one, if I select the second view now, you see that the class here, it's empty. So it's like I have a placeholder that is a standard UI view controller. That's why it shows us the standard Apple view controller when we select this one. The third button here is the source control. This is more advanced. We're not going to get into this now. This is the version editor. So we will speak about this when we get into that. So for now, we're going to use the standard or assistant editor. Then on top here, you have some buttons. The play button means that we want to run our application. So if I click on this, it will run my simulator, which is the second part here. You can click on this. Right now, by default, it shows iPhone 8 Plus. And we have all type of simulators here. So I have iPhone X, SE, all the iPhone 8, 6. You may have different simulators here depending on your Xcode version. Also, I have some devices here. So if you have connected any device to your Xcode, you will see them as option here. So you can run on your device as well. Otherwise, for this project, we are going to use only simulators, so you don't really need this. So if I select it to iPhone 8, and if I click run, this will install my application on my simulator, and also it will run the iPhone simulator on my screen, so I can look into it and I can play with my application. Right now we are going to see a white view with a click me button on top. There is nothing else there. So you can see my simulator here is loading because this is the first time I'm running my simulator, so it's kind of like installing the iOS on it. Let's give it a few seconds until it installs. Also, as you can see, while we are running, our default view here was changed to the debugging area, so we can see what's going on in our simulator. Also, once our application starts running, we will see the bottom area here, which will give us information about our application, about the values of some variable, what's going on there, etc. So right now we see the launch screen. Remember, this is like the flash screen, the white one. And as soon as our application is running, you can see there is a click me button there. I can click on it, doesn't happen anything. That's it. At the bottom here we have these two areas. The black one is called like the debugging area. You can show different information to you. And the right side is going to show you what you have, what values you have, what objects you have running, etc. Again, to this we're going to get later when we start using our application. Now we are running our application, so our stop button is active. So if I click on the stop button, you will see that my application is like it's killed. It moved to the background. And this is a nice iPhone simulator here. You have everything that you have on a normal iPhone, like settings, calendar. You can even access the web browser here, contacts. And as you can see, it opened a new application here. Right now we have no icon, so it shows this blueprint. And our application name is intro. I can just tap on it and it will open and show me my application. So this is it of our Xcode main area, what we are going to use. The last thing I'm going to show is the view here. Currently, whatever we see here, the size, it's iPhone 8 size. So if you want to choose a different iPhone size here, for example, I can choose this one. And now it's an iPhone SE size here. Or we can choose a landscape or a portrait. So you can see, depending on how you are designing your view, maybe this will be easier for you to choose. If your application is default for an iPad, for example, this is an iPad Pro. If I select, it will change to an iPad Pro size. So you can see how big the screen is now. And my button is very small there. So I'm going to get back to an iPhone 8. And you can close this just by tapping on views.